Hey, vinyl community. Today I am here once again with my good friend Logan from SWELLHEADS Network, and we are here today to talk about our top 10 Steely Dan songs. Steely Dan, what a fantastic group. We've allowed ourselves our top 10, but also 5 honorable mentions. Logan, welcome to the channel once again. How are you?
Hello, sir. I'm doing very well.
Good. Well, let's start by getting into how did you first get into Steely Dan? What was kind of the gateway for you? And have you ever seen Steely Dan live?
Sure. Steely Dan was one of many bands, but among like a very specific top 3 of bands that my dad tried to introduce me to when I was younger, and I just did not get. The other 2 being Pet Shop Boys and Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. And I hold all 3 of those together because presently those are 3 of my top 50 bands of all time. like it was a very slow process, but like they all kind of like clicked one after another. I think Nick Cave was probably the first one when I was getting into post-punk in high school. Like that was kind of an easy one for me to start. And then from post-punk, you kind of naturally gravitate towards the new wave thing. And then I got into Pet Shop Boys. Steely Dan was kind of that last one I had to cross off to really like get, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. But I think it is a band, like the more you know about music, the more you can really appreciate what they do. Because I think there are so many people that just write them off as another yacht rock band. And I'm here to make the distinction. Steely Dan is not a yacht rock band. Never has been.
No.
And I love a lot of yacht rock too, but they are in such a higher caliber than that. And they've really, over the years, kind of gained a lot of appreciation from younger people that are into music. Because when you really understand what's going on, it's phenomenal. So yeah, it just kind of spiraled. And, they have a nice tight catalog too, 7 original albums and some other stuff later on. Like it's an easy catalog listen for sure. So, yeah, and then
no question.
Still fans.
Sounds like you have the coolest dad ever if he was trying to get you into Nick Cave, Pet Shop Boys, and Steely Dan.
I think I've talked about this on my channel before, so I won't dwell on it. But my parents were very musically inclined. They met at the same dance club and had just this incredible record collection together. And so I grew up a child of 80s music. I mean, some of my first musical memories are Talking Heads and 9 Inch Nails and like a lot of Ministry, even stuff like that. Like I got accustomed to that very early. So not everything clicked immediately, but I hold a lot of that stuff like very dear to me.
Right.
I was very lucky.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. Well, for me, Steely Dan was something I heard their hits on the radio. I heard Do It Again, Reelin' in the Years, Josie Don't Lose That, Ricky Don't Lose That Number, Josie, the hits. But, it wasn't, and I don't know what clicked for me, but I heard the song Peg on the radio, but I didn't know the name of the song. I didn't know they were singing Peg. And so I went into my record store and I saw they had a used CD by Steely Dan and it was Katie Lied. And I thought, well, maybe this has got that song on it. And of course it didn't because it's not on that album, but I fell in love with that album. And I really realized the depth of Steely Dan, just how creative they were and that they were not a yacht rock band. They weren't just, they were so much deeper than the hits you heard on the radio. And that's when I started, preaching about Steely Dan to everybody I knew, like, oh, there's this great band. I mean, we're talking, this is probably the early 90s when I got into
Sure.
Dan. I was like, I can't believe what I've been missing all this year. But they're one of those bands. It's sort of like, if you go to a party and you want to impress people with how cool you are, or find out if people that you're associating with are cool, ask them if they like Steely Dan. If they like Steely Dan, then they are absolutely cool, worth knowing, and we're going to bond over that. But if they don't, then you're dead to me. I don't want to know it. No, just kidding. But.
No joke. I was at a party once, and I was near somebody else's record collection. There's somebody, I can't even remember who it was at this point, but it must have been somebody I knew because they entrusted me to go pick out a record from their collection. And I immediately went for, I actually didn't pull it out because I don't need to show anything from it, but they had a copy of this, and it was the first thing I put on, and everyone at the party was like, "Oh, no Steely Dan fan, let's party."
Yeah,
So you're
that's
100% right.
nothing cooler to play at a party, nothing cooler to throw on at a party than some Steely Dan. Absolutely. So Logan, did you see Steely Dan live? And if so, when?
I did. I unfortunately never got to see them while Walter Becker was still alive. I tried many times; it just never worked out for whatever reason. But after he passed away, they announced a tour, and I was like, I have to go. Like even if it almost inclined me to go even more than before, because now it's like, what's the performance going to be like? What are they going to do? Like, how are they going to sort of do justice to Walter Becker's musical legacy? And I think I can confidently say that, this was not my favorite concert of all time, but they were by far the tightest live band I have ever seen. I mean, Donald and Walter are notorious for laboring over who got to be in Steely Dan at any particular time, and so that still rings true to his live band today, and it was just phenomenal. I mean, dude can still sing like nobody else. Dude plays the piano like nobody else. He had a lot of great backup singers doing vocal bits here and there. Just so impressive. And no fancy video screens, no stage props. It was just a curtain and some mood lighting and this fucking 12-piece band, and it was incredible. It was so good, and it was really moving watching them play these songs, not necessarily with Walter, but for Walter. That was like, not to get too sappy right off the top here, but Walter Becker and Grant Hart from Husker Du passed away, I think, within 2 days of each other, and that was probably the worst week I've had in a long time. Those were two really big ones for me, and so the show is incredible even still.
Yeah, I saw them. It was called the Art Crimes Tour. It was when Walter Becker was still alive. I think it was, God, don't quote me on this, but I think it was 98 or 99. And so right before or right after, I think the album that had just come out was the Alive in America album. And so, they didn't have Two Against Nature, hadn't come out yet. It was sort of like, oh my God, Steely Dan is back together, and they're going out.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we never thought that was going to happen again. Donald Fagen had some solo records. I think Kamakiriad was the last solo album that he had put out before this particular tour that they went on, which Walter Becker actually played on. And I think there was some consideration they were going to call that a Steely Dan album, but then Walter Becker was like, no, I don't want to make this a Steely Dan project. And so he's very much, his presence is on that album. But so I saw him there, and that was when, Donald Fagen was wearing his assless chaps. No, I'm just kidding. But, you're right. There is no, they just had the black curtain. Their music was the entire show. They didn't have any adornments on stage. It was just them playing. But what a fantastic show. I mean, they don't mess around. They are decisive.
No, not at all.
And they are very serious about what they do. And it was one of the best concerts I've ever seen. And it was an outdoor. It was at a place it's now called DT Music Theater, but it was back then it was called Pine Knob. So it's this outdoor, amphitheater. And we were on the lawn because we couldn't afford the, in the pavilion area.
Yeah.
But still, it was just such a fantastic, just to even see them together, this band that I had idolized and worshiped, for so long, to see them playing together again. But it's just really great. So without any further ado, why don't we get into our honorable mentions, Logan? Let's start with, you can go through all 5 of yours and then I'll give mine.
I'm going to pull a fast one on you. Tell yours first, because there's one thing I have to grab for this that I forgot. So
okay,
you take the reins. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Well, for my honorable mentions, I feel badly because in my top 10, there are 3 albums that I did not have any songs from. And I know it's going to sound weird. And I like this album a lot, But in my top 10, spoiler alert, I'm not gonna have anything from Gaucho. And don't shoot me, like I love Hey 19, but it's one of those, the over familiarity of it is what keeps it off my list. So the track from Gaucho that I'm going to put on my honorable mentions is going to be Time Out of Mind. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mark Knopfler plays on this track. He did lead guitar work on that. It's just a great track. I love it. It's got, I don't know, it's just that chill vibe that you get on Gaucho. You know, it's sort of like they're stepping into the 80s. It's their first and only album of the 1980s. It's got almost a little kind of Funky Dire Straits guitar work in it from Mark Knopfler, but I don't know. I love that track. It's always had a cool beat to it. And I don't know why I say it's always had like it's changed. The tracks evolved over the years. Like what, you know, sometimes the stuff that comes out of my mouth, I can't, you know, it leaves my mouth and then it, you know, but anyway, I love Time Out of Mind. That's one of them. I'm going to go with Pearl of the Quarter from Countdown to Ecstasy. Love that countrified. I think that's the only, one of the only like country, you know, there's like slide guitar in it. It's just a sweet track. And it just shows how versatile Steely Dan could be. I mean, they grew up loving jazz music, but on a dime, they could turn around and turn in a very convincing country style.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, you know, pop song like that. The other album, another album I should say that I don't have anything in my top 10 from is Everything Must Go. Not that I don't like that album, and I know I ranked it, I think it might have been at the bottom of my Steely Dan album rankings, but I was just listening to this song on Spotify a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, that's got one of those, like, just a great hook. It's got a great beat to it. You know, it's the last track on the album, and it starts off, and it's almost like this jazz band warming up, and you're like, oh, they're going to do some kind of Ornette Coleman thing, you know, with this track, and then it falls down, and then they hit that groove. And it's just everything that I love about Steely Dan. You've got this tight groove. There's no improvisation in the beat. It's just, you know, persistent, but it's got, you know, that melody, the whole, I don't know, everything that ties it together. I'm like, oh man, I love this song. And I don't know, like if I had to reconsider, I might rank Everything Must Go a little bit ahead of Two Against Nature. You know, I don't know, these things are always
sure
changing, but so that is my third one. I'm going to go with, speaking of Two Against Nature, I love What a Shame About Me. I'm going to put that on there. It feels like that album. If you know, if I wasn't that familiar with Steely Dan's discography and you told me that was off the Royal Scam, I would totally have bought that. It's got that Royal Scam feel about it to me. Always, you know, that little bridge, or I don't know what you call it, before he, you know, says, what a shame about me. You know, it's just like so Steely Dan right there. And that track is just like, they haven't lost it. You know, it's so, everything you love about Steely Dan is they just, you know, they've got this, and I don't know, I'm not a scholar of music, but it's just the phrasing they use and just, I don't know, the chords, everything. It is such a Steely Dan song for me. And it was like, that's so familiar. I love it. And then my fifth one is going to be Everyone's Gone to the Movies from Katie Lied. Always
nearly made my list. It's so good.
Yeah. And I love that, you know, and it's like, you have no idea what the hell he's singing about, but, you know, you have to like read up about, you know, Mr. LePage, and, you know, he had this theater, and it's like, what? That's one of the things that I love about Steely Dan is those lyrics. There's always like, there's something, they're written so cleverly, and you're trying to make sense of what are they singing about, you know, what is it that they're talking about. And you know, Walter Becker and Donald Fagen in their interviews, they were very kind of, you know, they wouldn't exactly tell you what it was about. They would just sort of give you enough clues.
Sure.
You know, and if they did tell you, you couldn't even be reasonably certain that they were not just putting you on, you know. But that one, I always thought that was that cool. It's just kind of got a, I don't know, like a bongo rhythm kind of to it that I think is very cool. But yeah, so those are my 5.
Nice. I went to go grab this because it's important to me that I talk about it. This is a book called Steely Dan Reelin' in the Years by a guy named Brian Sweet. I'm telling you, Jeff, anyone who's watching, this is in the top 5 music biographies I've ever read.
Wow.
It's long, but it's worth it. I mean, this guy really knows his shit, and it goes up through this is like an updated version, so it goes up through Walter Becker's second solo record, which is like mid 2010s, but I think it's before Sunken Condos.
Okay.
It is phenomenal. So any Dan fans, you have to pick this up. It is necessary reading.
Did you get that on Amazon?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
It was gifted to me from Amazon, so you should be able to get it. But I have seen it at Barnes and Noble's store. Anywhere fine books are sold.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't show these when I was showing the individual songs, but
yeah,
it was on vinyl. But I feel badly. Like I'm not saying these albums aren't any good. They are good. A lot of it sounds more like Donald Fagen's solo stuff than maybe a true Steely Dan for albums. But I love them both. I mean, Donald Fagen is brilliant. Walter Becker's brilliant, and I'm not. It's just I love those classic albums. Those studio albums from the 70s are just so good.
I mean, you're one better than me because I have to shamefully admit, being a fan of this band for so many years, I've never heard those albums. I actually own Two Against Nature on CD. I don't have the other one. I don't have Everything Must Go on CD, but I have Two Against Nature. I've just never gotten around to listening to it, and I don't know what it is. It's just like kind of like I was saying earlier. They have this perfect album run. It's like you almost. It's like you love this band so much, but you almost don't want there to be any more material because they just nailed it 7 times in a row.
Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes you're at risk of tarnishing your legacy. I think U2 has done that because they've stayed around too long. That's one of the bands that I always point to is like, God, will you just break up already? Every album you put out that sucks makes people, appreciate your older stuff even. People are just like tired of you to go away. But Steely Dan never did that. I feel like, Donald Fagen could have, put out all his solo stuff as Steely Dan and just been like, well, Walter Becker's gone, but people know Steely Dan. They don't know the Donald Fagen brand, but he didn't. And I think, to his credit, they both said, okay, enough's enough. And, they scooped, but they weren't, putting out substandard stuff. Both those albums are great. I mean, they don't in any way diminish the Steely Dan legacy, but I just like their 70s stuff that much more.
Yeah. And for the record, I will die on a hill for the last 2 U2 records. I have such strong connections to both those albums, and I think they are very underanalyzed, I think, by many fans.
Okay. Well, I maybe I need to rediscover. I've got the one. I mean, I know we're not here to talk U2. I've got the one. The other one, Songs of Innocence, I think I don't have, and it was on everybody's iPhone. But anyway, let's get into your honorable mentions.
Sure. Number 5, Bad Sneakers. Also, if I had a 16, it would absolutely be Everyone's Gone to the Movies. I did more reordering on this actually than I did my my REM list. But yeah, Bad Sneakers would be my 15 then. Turn That Heartbeat Over Again, closing track from Can't Buy a Thrill, is amazing. It is like the key changes in that song are unbelievable. It's like it's such a low key track. Like it's one of those tracks I'm surprised never really got like really kind of got like even like the cult fan following from Steely Dan fans. Number 3, Dr. Wu, I think is a very typical Steely Dan song in the sense of like it's like very definitive of when they are at their best. But obviously it's not a bad song. It's my it's in my honorable mentions here, and it's just like if the first thing I would think of is like, if you had to play one Steely Dan song for somebody to like explain what they sound like, that would probably be the one I would play. Do It Again was originally in my top 10 and just got bumped down about 3 hours ago. It was a very last minute decision. But yeah, I don't really, obviously I listen for guitar solos, but I'm not like a guitar solo guy. But that's probably my top 5 guitar solos of all time. The Do It Again solo is iconic. It's so good. Yeah. That is actually one of the key songs that got me into Steely Dan, because it's so just like psychedelic in a way.
Yeah, that's Jeff Skunk Baxter, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah.
And to, join the Doobie Brothers, or I don't know if he was like, like Michael McDonald, he was originally, in Steely Dan, and then he went on to the Doobie Brothers. So there's almost cross-pollination there between the two bands. But
man, the Doobie Brothers opened for Steely Dan when I saw them, and I actually had no idea that Michael McDonald wasn't in the Doobie Brothers anymore. So I was super confused, but they're fine.
Yeah, sure.
And then they were actually supposed to do the Michael McDonald reunion tour last year. I think that never happened, obviously. And my number 11 honorable mention is Dallas. Are you familiar with Dallas?
Mm-hmm. That was one of those early demos that they did, isn't it?
It was officially released. It was their first ever single that I think got pressed one time. It's extremely rare, but it's appeared on a couple overseas like Steely Dan compilations. So it is out there, but it's not their most successful song, but it is super catchy. It has vocals from, I want to make sure I give credit where credit's due here, David Palmer, who sang some songs on the first record. He takes the lead on that song, but it's this beautiful song. But the easiest way to get a hold of that song is I can't remember the name of the record, but it was covered by Poco, like a long time into Poco's career, and it's on one of their records. So that's like the easiest way to hear it. But obviously, the original version's on YouTube. Anyone can go find it. But it is such a great song, and it's not even in the Citizen box set, which I find so infuriating. Like,
they could have done so much with that box set that they didn't. They could have included some of those classic early demos that you can find in a cheap record bin anywhere. Those CDs.
Yeah, those have been reissued a million times
for so long. Yeah, I mean, they could have included the track like you're talking about, Dallas. There's some tracks from Gaucho that didn't make the final album that you can also find on YouTube. That I think, the second arrangement, is one that comes to mind. Mm-hmm. All that stuff they could have put on there, but I think their quality control is so tight. They were so afraid that, if we put out any of this alternate stuff or outtakes, people are going to think less of it. It's like, guys, just, that's what the box set is for. People understand all that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But yeah, those are my almost made it, but didn't make it.
Okay, well, a very cool list, and now we're into the ones that we're really serious about. So let's get into, Logan, what's your number 10?
My number 10 from Asia is Black Cow. It's almost funny when you hear it. Like, it's the fact that it's the opening track on the record, I think is still like a little jarring, because it opens up so squonky, but like it is also, again, like one of those tracks that's so definitively Steely Dan, and it's a bold way to start a record for sure. But once you kind of get past that, like real funky intro, it does evolve into this like really beautiful song. I have a couple personal connections to the song too, that really put it, in my top 10 always. One of which is, my grandmother, when I was a kid, we would always go to her house and she would like make homemade black cows for us like every time. And it was like just the best.
Yeah.
And a way crazier story is, my friends and I used to, in high school, would take like one earbud from each other's iPod and put them in one ear and just like pick a song at random and play it and just like see what the two songs sounded like together. And one of them was Black Cow with a song by Cradle of Filth, with, for those of you who don't know, are just a very extreme English black metal band. And that memory just makes me laugh. But the song itself is fantastic. So it stays in my top 10.
Yeah, no, it's a great start to a great album, no question. Well, mine is going to be off of my favorite Steely Dan album of all time, Katie Lied. I'm going to go with Your Gold Teeth 2. Just love that. Love it more than the first installment of Your Gold Teeth. But yeah, just that rhythm, you know, it's just a piano. You've got a cool guitar solo, and it's just a great lyric. It's a great rhythm, everything about it. Always been one of my favorite tracks on my favorite album.
I agree. It trumps Gold Tooth 1. But there's a few things in Steely Dan's catalog that like you were saying, like they are such a quality controlled band, but they do some like really just like nice typical band things, like writing a sequel to your own song. And there was another thing that I will talk about later in the list that they do that's kind of in that lane as well. My number 9 from Countdown to Extinction is My Old School. You know, there's a lot of hits, quote unquote, in my list, but I think Steely Dan, very similar to REM, is a band that has such a crazed following that like even some of the album tracks still seem like hits. So I don't really know how to judge, but this is like, you know, this is a hit for sure. It's a song that is, I think, maybe one of like the best recorded music performances of all time. Like the band, every single member on that track is just on fire. You know, the bongos and shit, Walter Becker's just shredding on it. Like it's a really phenomenal performance. And, you know, it's a hit for good reason at that. And it is my number 9 favorite Steely Dan song.
Yeah, no question. Well, it's interesting. You know, I'm glad David Palmer, they got rid of him before that album, because that is truly always the David Palmer stuff. Not that I don't like Dirty Work or, you know, some of the other stuff on the first album, but he just he's not the voice of Steely Dan. And,
totally.
I love Countdown to Ecstasy so much because it's still, you know, they got some quirky stuff on there, like King of the World with like the synthesizer. And it's like,
yeah,
you got Pearl of the Quarter, and, you know,
Countdown to Extinction to me, I was thinking about this today too. It's kind of a perfect sophomore record. You know, it doesn't fall into that sophomore slump that people always talk about. You know, they've had a lineup change. They've matured a little bit. They're writing outside their comfort zone. I mean, there are some really punk moments on Countdown to Extinction that I just love. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I feel it's an improvement on their first album. But speaking of, that's actually my number 9 is also going to be from Countdown to Ecstasy, and I am going to go with Bodhisattva version on this, not the live version on the Gold compilation, although it's so funny for the intro alone.
Insane.
That's why I feel like that's what I sound like on my videos about an hour in. But if you haven't checked it out yet, you can find it on the Gold compilation. I don't know if that's on Spotify or you can look it up on YouTube, but it's just hilarious. But Bodhisattva, it's just such a cool, funky track. You know, they got such a great rhythm going. You know, look at the band back. This was when they were a band and not just Fagan and Becker and a collection of, you know, whatever studio musicians they happen to bring in on the track. You got Jeff Baxter there, you know, looking very cool. Denny Diaz over here, you know, kind of like that lumberjack vibe he's got going on there, but
totally.
Just totally cool. And Bodhisattva, you know, and they just do it so effortlessly. You know, it swings. I love that persistent piano melody that just carries it along.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that is my number 9.
I just realized I was making a grave error and referring to this as Countdown to Extinction, which is a Megadeth record. And I
Yeah,
always get that
yeah,
shit
where have I
confused.
heard that before? But yeah.
It was not Steely Dan, my bad. But I will rectify it by showing this album again for my number 8 spot, which is Showbiz Kids. A track that I, always liked, certainly, but somehow didn't really like hardcore click with me until very recently. And this is the song that actually knocked out Do It Again for my top 10. It's like I had, listened to the catalog this week. I kind of like heard everything on shuffle just to hear it on, in different ways. And every time Showbiz Kids came out, I was like, this is an amazing song. And I love when Steely Dan goes dark. I'm going to talk about that in some of my other picks, but like, it is just an amazing song once again. And when I was talking about earlier, like kind of general band motifs that Steely Dan almost seems like too high for, but they still take care of anyway. The lyric where he sings, "They've got the Steely Dan t-shirt" is incredidible. Like the fact that Steely Dan has a self-referential track is like kind of mind-boggling to think about now. But yeah, just like it's great. That's all.
I feel like you could do the hustle to that song,
Yeah.
very seriously, and I could never understand, because there's no lyric sheet with any of the Steely Dan, these early Steely Dan. And I'm like, what are they saying? You go to Las what? It's not Vegas, and then you go to Las.
There is, if you can find it.
Is there? Okay. Well, mine on the CD that I had the first I heard that it was on the RCA CD, which are some of the worst early CDs ever because you get no packaging whatsoever. And so I didn't know like what the hell they were singing. And then I came to later, like, oh, you go to Lost Wages, sort of like a pun on Las Vegas. But yeah.
I think isn't like one headphone singer singing Las Vegas and the other singing Lost Wages? I think they did that intentionally.
Could be, yeah. But it was like, what are they? But it's such a cool track, and I'm sure people who know how to do the hustle, I'm sure you'll find you can hustle to it. Okay, my number 8 is gonna go off the album, their third album, Pretzel Logic. I'm gonna go with Night by Night. It almost could be the theme from a cop show from the 1970s. About it, and I wish somebody would put that song to, make up like a mock cop show, theme or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I love it. It's the second track off of here, and it's got a great groove to it, a great solo. Just kind of like the strings that kind of heighten the tension there. But yeah, always love that. I think it's a very cool. I had to really think about it. I had to listen to this album again and realize, God, I've always loved that song. People think about, oh, Any Major Dude Will Tell You, Ricky Don't Lose That Number, Pretzel Logic is the kind of the standout tracks, but I really like Night by Night.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, have you heard Joe Jackson's cover of King of the World?
No, I have not.
He's been doing it live for years, so there are some good audio recordings of it. It's really good.
I love Joe Jackson, so I will have to check that one out. Yeah.
I didn't realize I did this, but my number 7 is also from Countdown to Ecstasy, which is not to say that I low rate this record, but I literally I am just realizing now that the 3 songs I picked from this I all bundled together, but I guess because they're all so good, I can't pick which order they go in. But my last song from this record, which is absolutely my favorite song from this record, is the Boston Rag. And what I was saying with Showbiz Kids, like there are some amazing like dark Steely Dan songs, and like obviously like the instrumentation is not heavy, but that is a heavy song. Like the bombast and the chorus and everything, and just the vocal harmonies, and there's some kind of like nice distorted guitar in there too. But it is a beast of a track. You can really hear Donald kind of pounding away at the keys. I don't remember if I don't think they did it when I saw them. I can't remember because they did, so many amazing songs, but that's one song that there are live recordings out of it. And it's just, you can't go wrong. It's powerful any way you slice it. And that is my number 7 track.
Yeah, no, that's a great pick. I was wondering if you're going to be gaslighting me and every one of your top 10 songs was going to be on Countdown to Ecstasy, but I'm glad that have a little more
Just a
there.
just a fluke.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so this one we've already covered on your honorable mentions, but it did make my top 10. My number 7 is going to be Black Cow off of here. One of my
No, that was my number. That was my number 10. So it made it.
Oh, was it your number 10? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So it was. Okay. I was like, I couldn't remember where on your list it fell. But yeah, so we both have this as part of our top 10. And why wouldn't you? It's a standout track on here. And my favorite moment is right before that keyboard solo where it changes time signatures.
Yeah.
You got, I don't know if it's that 3/4 time or whatever, but it's just like, oh, that is so awesome. The keyboard is awesome on here. You know, it's got kind of this lyric about, you know, some, you know, you were high, I saw you, you were high, you know, and the whole shaming of the lyric is
Totally
funny and cool, but always love that. We already covered it, you know, with your number 10 pick, but that is on my list as well.
All right, my number 6, if I can find it here, from Katie Lied. Unfortunately, this is my only mention from Katie Lied in my top 10, though I still love it as a record. But it is Black Friday. You know, as a young person in a town surrounded by capitalism, you only know of one Black Friday until you you really read up and see what that shit's about. And so yeah, this was you know, one of the things I discovered when learning about, you know, what the actual Black Friday was. I actually covered this song many years ago in high school for I put out like a Thanksgiving themed single, and this was a song I put on it. And it's got a great groove to it. You know, it's got kind of that like thumping blues thing, which is like, I kind of talked about this on Instagram yesterday, but like I have a very tense relationship with blues music. But this is one song I can really, you know, kind of get behind it. It again just has that like Steely Dan, man, just like bombastic choruses every single track, just explosions, big notes, soaring vocals, like the whole nine. There's another song you kind of hustle to, certainly.
Sure.
And yeah, love it quite a lot. That's my number 6.
Yeah, well, you say, you know, you had a number 16 pick. If you had a number 16 pick, what yours was, and mine would have been Black Friday. I feel badly because I love that track, and it's just so Steely Dan, that whole chorus. When Black Friday, you know,
Totally.
that is like Steely Dan. Nobody's ever replicated that, you know, and it's that jazz sensibility that you have. I mean, if you just had an instrumental of that, you know, totally. I mean, that is a classic jazz composition right there, but love that track. Absolutely. My number 6 is going to be Do It Again from Can't Buy a Thrill. Couldn't leave that one off my top 10 list. And I was listening to it again today. And just that, you know, it takes them so long to get to the first lyric of that.
Yeah.
Got the boom, and that goes on, and then the keyboards kick in, and then, you know, you got a little bit of the guitar there, and they're just like, you know, we're gonna stick with this groove for a little bit, and then, you know, the motif, the Do It Again motif kind of comes in, and yet you're still waiting for the lyric and waiting for it. And keep in mind, this was a single, and usually it ain't that long before the vocal comes in. But they're just like, we're gonna take our time, we're establishing this groove, we're gonna slowly start introducing each of the instruments. And then, you know, it's amazing to think Donald Fagen was so insecure about his vocal that
I know.
Palmer, and even up to Countdown to Ecstasy, they were still auditioning vocalists because Donald Fagen thought he wasn't a good enough vocalist. And it's like, God, you know, I can't imagine any other singer singing Do It Again or Reeling in the Years. It's just so, he's so perfect. And everything just comes together so brilliantly on that track.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly has a very unconventional voice, and I think that's probably where he was coming from, and those guys, really wanted to be, kind of behind the scenes conductors in a way, and they didn't necessarily want to be, the band, but they did, and they made it work, and it's, we're all glad it turned out that way.
We're all the better for it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My number 5 from Pretzel Logic is Pretzel Logic. Again, another heavy song to me. Another, a song that is musically kind of dark as well. It just got, this is another just heavy kind of blues groove to it. There's an amazing live performance of this. Donald Fagen and Michael McDonald and Boss Scaggs have done all these collaborative live performances together. The first one was called the New York Soul Review, something like that. And there's a live recording of that. The version of Pretzel Logic on that is amazing. And then they also did the Dukes of September, which is really strong as well. And that's like, those live recordings are really what sold me on this song. Not that I didn't enjoy it before, but that's what made it peak for me. And it's another one of those songs. It's like, hey, you want to know what Steely Dan's all about? Like, they're the best band. They're the best, musically tight band in the world. Like, that's one of those tracks that really, really proves it. And is my number 5.
And it's a song about time travel, of all things. You gather that from the title, but
I mean, we'll get to, going to my top 4 here. Their storytelling is impeccable.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. But great. Yeah, that's another one. It's like, oh, I can't believe I got to leave that one off because I love that track. But, this could have easily evolved into a top 30 list because there's so many great tracks to choose from. But my number 5, I'm going to go with the leadoff track from the Royal Scam, Kid Charlemagne.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah, love that. It's kind of got a shuffle rhythm. It's about a drug dealer. It's just some shady shit going down on this song. And, they craft a story so well. And it's just a cool track. I love the rhythm. I love everything about it. I love, Donald Fagen. Is there gas in the car?
Yeah.
That falsetto is so cool. So many fantastic moments on that song. This is one of the really great underrated albums. And just a little note about the cover. Actually, this skyline here, where you've got the different animals, you got the mongoose and the serpent and all that. That was originally commissioned for a Van Morrison album, and he rejected it. And so Steely Dan used it, and then they airbrushed this picture, superimposed this picture of, this homeless person sleeping on a park bench, just to kind of convey, the Royal Scam has got a very dark lyrical theme to it. And so this kind of conveys that, if you're familiar with that song. But anyway.
Absolutely. I feel like there's a story in the book about how they had to change it for some of the overseas markets, but I could be conflating something else. Sorry, that story went absolutely nowhere, but that's what I thought of. My number 4 from Can't Buy a Thrill is Dirty Work. If you have to pin Steely Dan as a yacht rock band, it's one of really only the 2 songs you can get away with doing it. The other one probably being Ricky Don't Lose That Number. Both amazing songs, but if you are unwilling to recognize how strong this band is, those are probably the 2 songs that you can throw into that category. But it is just so catchy, and I think it is by far David Palmer's best vocal performance as well. I was actually really surprised they did this when I saw them, because I figured Donald wasn't going to sing it, but they did this version, just this beautiful, like, quiet, passionate version that I think was only piano, and one of his backup singers sang the lead vocal, and it was really, really awesome. And this being my number 4 track, it was really cool to hear that live. But again, I'm a big vocals guy, and the vocal harmonies on the song are amazing. It's just this great catchy pop song. There's not a lot to it, but it is just one I love quite a bit. There you go. Number 4.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember when I first heard that album, I got to that track and I'm like, this is Steely Dan. I've heard this on the radio before. I had no idea because it's David Palmer singing it. I mean, he sings it great. He's a great vocalist. Just, I'm glad he's not with Steely Dan beyond that.
Right.
But, it's on the chorus is kind of where it's like, okay, yeah, there's Donald Fagen. You can hear him on the chorus. But I was like, oh, I had no idea. But great track. Absolutely. My number 4. And for the rest of my list, I've only got 2 albums here that are represented. Going back to my favorite for Daddy Don't Live in That New York City No More. Great track. I don't know. It's just cool. I don't know. Some of these songs, I can't tell you exactly what I like about it, but it's just got a great groove to it. I love the guitar work, the lead guitar on here. It's just a funky little track, and I think Donald Fagen sings it great. Can't tell you what it's about. I've never realized it that deeply just because I love the song so much. I'm just listening to it and absorbing it as a whole. But yeah, I great track.
What type of pressing is that? What's the little text over the band logo?
It just says MCA Records, MCA 1594. I think it's like the catalog number.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I've never seen. Mine is just I just have the blank one up top. I've never seen another version of it. So
yeah, I wonder you might have an earlier pressing of it. This one is
over the clouds.
I don't know if that's what yours looks like, but yeah, it's probably a later pressing than yours, I would guess, but I don't know. I'm not huge on, the whole etymology or whatever of
for sure
all that, but.
Number 3. But between all 15 songs, the only inclusion of this album, and it's one of those things like we were talking about earlier, either before I think it was before we started recording. This was a hard list for me to do because Steely Dan albums are such great cohesive pieces to me. So taking songs out of context is sometimes hard to do. But this particular song, it's always been standing out to me. It's always one I've been able to pull out from this record at any point in time. From the Royal Scam, that's Haitian Divorce. When we talk about Donald Fagen's storytelling, that's the primo, like another very similar to Dr. Wu, which is his world of characters is just mind blowing. A lot of my favorite songwriters have just amazing casts of characters in their lyrics universe, and Haitian Divorce is one of those tracks. It's it's got that kind of that I don't really know how to describe, but that very particular kind of like world music groove to it. About this, what is a Haitian divorce? Like it's so particular, and I think that's one reason why I really, really love it. And that's a song that's kind of, I think, come up a little bit as like a cult fan favorite, but never was like a huge hit. But it is to me. That's my number 3.
Well, it's got that cool guitar there. Whatever that, I don't know. And I don't know, like I say, I'm not a musician, so I can't tell you what kind of guitar it's but it's so cool. And also tell you, I've actually been to Haiti. I've been there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, probably about 10 or 11 years ago before the earthquake I went. So that song was definitely on my mind when I was visiting there. But nonetheless, that's a story for another time.
But did you get divorced there?
I did not. I was going through a divorce.
Okay.
Didn't happen. It wasn't in the Haitian courts at the time. So, again, it's got a special connection for me there. But anyway, my number 3 is going to be Josie, the last track from Asia. Have you ever heard the Marion McPartland broadcast that she did on NPR with Donald Fagen and Walter Becker?
No, I haven't.
It's actually available on Spotify. So Marion
Okay.
she's a jazz pianist. She actually knew Charlie Parker, but she talks, I mean, because Walter Becker and Donald Fagen are such, jazz scholars, they're kind of sitting at her feet, and she's telling them stories about, well, I met Charlie Parker once, and he hit on me when my husband was there. And it was such a, she's got this like
Sure.
eagle, voice, but it's so cool. But they do a version of Josie, and she's playing piano. She does like the piano, I think, like for Josie. And it's so,
Wow.
it's like, God, I've always loved it on here, but it just shows you how brilliant that opening of Josie is. To hear them do it live on that, look it up. If you've got Spotify, look it up because it's available.
Yeah. I just tried to, but I couldn't find it. So you have to text me later.
Yeah, it gives whole new meaning to it. But that's when it's like, God, I love this song even more after listening to that. But yeah, it's an album closer. What a fitting way to go out. What a high note to go out on. And I think it's just fantastic. Love this album. It is probably many people's gateway to Steely Dan. This is kind of their dark side of the moon, I guess you might say, or, they're definitely their most popular album by far. And it's bookended by, two great tracks, Black Cow and Josie.
Yeah. The only, like, the most recent, like, Steely Dan interview footage I saw was Paul Schaefer actually started, like, his own talk show. I think it was only available on like a limited like internet provider or something, but he had Donald Fagen on it, and half the show was just those two guys like dueling keyboards the entire time. It's really impressive.
No question. Well, and you just see their affinity, they do a version of Star Eyes, which is a famous Charlie Parker song.
Mm-hmm.
They do, I forget what other Steely Dan tracks they do, but they do like a Duke Ellington song. It's really interesting to hear them in a different context than, what you've heard on these albums.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my number 2, also from Asia. Now, I know you said that there would be only 2 albums covered in your top 3. It's now revealed that it's Asia and Katie lied. I'm presuming that your number 1 track might be from Katie Lied, as it's your favorite record, which would be fine. But I'm shocked to hear no mention of Deacon Blues, which is my number 2 Steely Dan song. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be your number 1. Don't tell me yet. I'll be surprised. But it's obvious. But it's the same thing I talked about when I chose Losing My Religion as my number 2 REM song. Like, it's their biggest song for a reason. It is unbelievable. The storytelling, the performance, the composition, the lyrics. It is like, it's a song that makes you so mad that you didn't come up with it first. Just this unreal picture painted of this guy going through this, mental trudge, and just like following him along the way, the expanding man into the I can't pull the lyric offhand, but actually I can, because it's in the gatefold, or it's in the sleeve. The way he changed it every time, the expanding man into the or this is the night of the expanding man is how it ends, and you just follow this guy through a whole day in his weirdo life where he's mm-hmm. drinking and driving, and like, oh, it's just, it is one of, probably the, I'm gonna make a bold claim here, it's probably top 5 greatest American folk songs. Like, it is it is superb. Mm-hmm. And really just comes from like those, strong folk fables of old music like that. And yeah, it's, anyone can talk about this song, so I know I don't need to, but it is my second favorite one, so I'm going to, and that's it.
Yeah, no, excellent pick. So you know what album I'm going back to? Katie Lied again, and I'm going to go with Chain Lightning, which is
good pick.
A fascist rally, if you couldn't gather that already from the lyric. But it's so, just the opening, and then just the whole, the first verse, and then you got the great guitar solo, and then just love the whole, they're standing just where we stood. And it just, it is so, I love it. It's so great. It's so, you know, I know I use the word funky a lot, which people are like, they're not funky, but they are funky.
They are.
You're funky. No, like I totally, you know, I just love that track. It's like, ooh, so suave, you know, it's a great track to play at a party and be like, ooh, what's that? You can play it at dinner, you know, if you're at a, I don't know. I used to be a wedding DJ, and you know, used to play that at dinner time because it's just got such a cool rhythm to it. It's jazzy, and I don't know, but it's fantastic. And I love it.
Okay. So Chain Lightning was your number 2 then, right? I think I got confused on what placement you were at.
Yeah.
All right. So there's still room for me not to get heated. Is what you're saying. All right. Well, my number 1 from a record I have not mentioned once, surprisingly, throughout this entire video. But again, it goes back to the concept I was talking about earlier of Steely Dan records just being these kind of, you know, untouchable art pieces front to back. And I think this is one of the finest full album experiences of the 70s. And that is why it is, you know, it's almost doing a disservice to the record to just pick one song here or there. But one of the best opening songs of all time by any band, one of the smoothest songs of all time, one of the best performed. My number 1 Steely Dan song is Babylon Sisters from Gaucho. It is just so powerful. Again, what is a Babylon sister? What are the Deacon Blues? You know, it's all these like weird questions that you get from listening to Steely Dan. You know, they are, you know, they're definitely a thinking man's band. They are definitely, you know, kind of a highbrow type of thing. And people are all like, yeah, it's too, you know, that's too music school graduate for me, which I get, but like, they are also really good at what they do.
Yeah.
and even, you know, even going into records like Nightfly and Karma Kyriad, like, you know, his Donald Fagen storytelling never wavered from just being the sharpest around. And Babylon Sisters again just paints this very vivid imagery, and just like you hear that song and you're like, and they're like, that is some shit that a Babylon sister could get down to. Like, that's exactly what that is.
Yeah.
The mood is perfect. And yeah, so that's my number 1. Always has been. That has never changed. And like I said, my favorite Steely Dan record, but like I can't ever pick any other like individual song out of it. It's just like they are at the placement on that record for a reason. You know, is it like only 6 tracks, just like in, out, done? Yeah,
no question. Well, one thing that has to be said is how great the artwork, with the exception of their first album, the artwork is on Steely Dan.
You don't like Camp Fire Thrills artwork?
No, and neither did they. I mean, it looks,
that's true.
Okay, Rocky Horror Picture Show lips here.
It's a little freaky.
Glow colors, like they got the prostitutes over here. You've got Mr. You know, Strongman, and no idea what the hell. You know, you got the straw. You got banana peels up here. Like, what in the hell is going on with this cover? So not a fan of this one. I mean, yeah, I don't hate it. I'm not going to look at top 10 worst albums, but, you know, not a favorite of mine. And then I'm also not a fan of this one either.
That was not great. It's very, but it's very of the time. You know?
Yeah, it looks very rushed. It was like, oh, quick, snap a photograph of the first thing you see. You know, I'm not even crazy about this one. Like, this is the best you could come up with, like Shadow, you know. But with the exception of those 3 albums, I love all the artwork on Steely Dan's albums.
Although this is one of their most like iconic fonts. Like, if you just look at the text, like,
yeah, I love the logo.
That's a good design.
Yeah, I love the logo. I wish they just paired it with something a little more eye-catching or appealing. But anyway, we're not here to talk about aesthetics of the album artwork. So my number 1, Deacon Blues. off of Asia. This was, yeah, if you're going to have anybody recommend Steely Dan to anybody, the song you're going to play is probably going to be Deacon Blues. If they haven't heard it already, which I'd be very surprised. It's the first song you throw on at a party, you know, that everyone just loves Steely Dan, you know, can get into. It's a great track. I mean, you touched on it and you covered it so beautifully. So there's not a whole lot I can add to that other than this is the quintessential Steely Dan track. It's the one that most people know. It's just got everything. And I even love, I'm more now than I was then. I just didn't like horns on rock music. I wasn't a big fan of the saxophone, but I love that instrumental, like at the end, before the final verse. It's just something about it. And just the horns on here are great. They don't sound kitschy or just too poppy, but it is a fantastic lyric. It's a fantastic instrumental track. Everything about it is just, everything I love about Steely Dan all wrapped up into one tiny package. But
absolutely.
So, well, that is our list. We had some crossover, but I was pleased to see that there were, a lot of tracks that we, had that were different. But that just
totally
shows how great Steely Dan's catalog is. And, I'm so glad we did this. And I know we're going to have future episodes. We've got a lot of music that we have in common, but definitely, and I forgot to mention this in the intro, but Logan just hit 700 subs on his channel. And so he's got a contest going on right now. If you're in the vinyl community, make sure you check out Logan's channel. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you hit the subscribe button when you're checking out his videos. And what the hell, jump on his contest. You might win something very cool. So,
nobody knows.
yeah, absolutely. You can see, Logan is very serious about his vinyl. He doesn't mess around, and he's got some cool stuff. Check out his channel and you'll get to actually see what is all that vinyl back there behind him, because he shares it. He knows what he's talking about, and his styles are, the music that he likes is so diverse. He likes Steely Dan, but he likes Cradle of Filth, for crying out loud. Check him out. No matter what your musical tastes are, you're going to find something to love about Logan's channel. Logan, thank you so much for joining me today for our discussion. Steely Dan fans out there, weigh in. What is your top 10? Share it in your comments section. And thanks for watching.